Thank you. Hey there, folks. Welcome into the News 12 Now desk. Thanks for joining us here on this Friday, January 26th. We have made it to the end of the week. Hopefully, everybody had a great week, even though we did have a little bit of rain to talk about. But we'll get to that in just a bit. We are going to start off, as we have pretty much every day this week, talking to Molly Martinez from our Washington, D.C. bureau there up in the nation's capital. Molly, good morning. How are we doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, Nick. Better now that I'm talking to you.
Yeah, we enjoy having you up here on the mornings, especially on Friday when we got a nice weekend coming up. So, Molly, yesterday the White House announced new steps it's taking to promote the importance of safe storage of guns. That's something that's been going on a lot here in Georgia and South Carolina as well. The Biden administration is using the Justice and Education departments to share information with the public on the issue with the hopes it reduces gun violence. So, what can you tell us about this plan?
Well, Nick, this is part of an executive order filed by the president, and the first thing he's doing is he's sending a letter out to principals nationwide, asking them to run point on the issue, to talk to students and parents and their community about safe gun storage. The second leg of this is that he's asking the Department of Justice to retool their guidelines for what constitutes safe gun storage. So that includes things like never storing a gun loaded, disassembling the gun before you store it, keeping ammo and the gun in separate storage places, and always keeping your gun behind lock and key. The White House estimates that 4.6 million children in the United States live in a home with an unsecured gun. So they're hoping that this new guideline will reduce the number of unintentional gun deaths, but also reduce the number of thefts. The ATF estimates that 1 million firearms are stolen annually.
Yeah, always a hot topic when it comes to election season is gun control, as is the economy. And the Commerce Department showed the GDP grew by an adjusted 3.3%, according to a new report released yesterday. So what's the White House saying about that report?
Nick, the White House is pretty thrilled with these numbers because it's Bidenomics in action, and the president is crediting this steady growth with a strong job market, with robust exports, and with lowering inflation. But not everybody is seeing this through rose-colored glasses. A Suffolk University poll this fall found that 70% of Americans actually feel that the economy is getting worse. 71% of Americans say that they've had to rein in their spending because of inflation, and the groups hardest hit, who say they're suffering the most, are those making $50,000 or less a year. Okay, so
something that could be impacting a lot of folks here. Let's talk about the former president here. Donald Trump always seems to be in the headlines, especially with these legal woes he's got going on. He was back in the courtroom yesterday for this E. Jean Carroll defamation suit. Meanwhile, a former member of his administration was sentenced to prison time. So can you bring us up to speed from both those hearings?
Yeah, let's start with the trial. So we talked about this yesterday. It was highly anticipated that Donald Trump was going to take the witness stand in his own defense. He did that, and as we talked about yesterday, the judge was very clear with what the president could not say while on the witness stand, and that was that E. Jean Carroll made up her accusations about the sexual assault that she said took place in the 90s. Because a jury already found him guilty of that, he was not allowed to comment on its validity. That was the whole basis of this defamation case. So he got on the stand, and his lawyer asked him if he thought these accusations were false, and he said, yes, all of these accusations are false. The judge stopped him immediately and had it stricken from the record. The former president went on to say that he's never even met E. Jean Carroll. He has no idea who she is. What's interesting is that in a few hours here, the jury's going to hear closing arguments, and then we could have a verdict as early as this afternoon. Now, in terms of the other legal drama unfolding in D.C., a former Trump advisor, Peter Navarro, was sentenced to 4 months in jail yesterday. That is for defying a congressional subpoena surrounding the January 6th investigation. He was charged with contempt of Congress, so he will be heading to jail.
Okay, so a lot going on there. Kind of hard to keep up with all these defendants and hearings and cases all over the country. A lot going on there with the former president. Okay, Molly, we appreciate it. As always, live from Washington, D.C. for us this morning, WRDW Washington correspondent Molly Martinez. Have a great weekend. Hopefully we'll see you back here on Monday with some more news.
Thanks, Nick. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. All right, folks, let's take you outside now. Let's talk a little bit about the weather here because it has not been super pleasant for us in the CSRN. Let me get that Washington, D.C. bug down. Good. As we take a live look right now, though, over Grovetown, it's not looking terrible. It's got some cloud cover there, but a little bit of sunshine poking through as well. Temperatures almost 60 degrees. Can you believe that? I feel like it was just last week we had temperatures in the teens on the weekend, and now we are dealing with 60s just about. So that's good, good. But it has been a little bit rainy here, a little bit humid, a little bit sticky. Want to remind you guys, as always, to be sure to download our WRDW streaming app and subscribe to our WRDW News 12 YouTube channel. We do streams here every day, Monday through Friday, all different sorts of stuff. Today, we've got a bunch of stuff planned, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the stream here. But just another thing I want to remind you guys, be sure to do that. Whoops. Just want to pull myself up there. All right, let's get into our top headlines now. Georgia lawmakers passed a bill yesterday allowing prosecutors to add anti-Semitism charges to crimes committed against Jewish people or places. And the governor says he's going to sign it. A study by the Anti-Defamation League shows anti-Semitic attacks are increasing. It comes during a tumultuous time in the Middle East. But the Islamic Center here in Augusta says the bill should include even more groups. Audrey Dickherber has more on the war's impact on people here at home.
With war continuing in the Middle East, people are looking for different avenues to help. But when it comes to passing a state law on anti-Semitism, members of Augusta's Muslim community are torn.
Peaceful coexistence, it did happen before for years and years. It can happen again.
44 Georgia senators voted to pass the bill.
If you want to go out and say that you hate Israel after this bill is passed, you may absolutely do that. But if you want to commit a crime, you got a problem.
But 6 didn't, and some people here in Augusta agree with that vote.
It does not help to alleviate this bad problem of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is very bad, heinous activity. And or actually all Muslims, are against any anti-Semitic actions or talks and so on. But you cannot only limit this to the Jewish people. If you want to make a law like that, okay, anti-hate, anti-Muslims should be outlawed, anti-Asian should be outlawed, anti-black should be outlawed. So why there's a distinction here?
He says people should be allowed to have their own opinions and thinks this law may infringe on that right to free speech.
There's 35,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, at least for now, or by now. So it is to limit our criticism of these actions by Israel is definitely not acceptable as far as like anti-Semitism. It is not. We have no problem with the Jews as Jews or individuals, but we have a problem with the actions of the Israel committing these, what we think is crimes against humanity.
But at the end of the day, people just want peace.
I'd really like, for us to be the one remembered as providing the humanitarian aid, stop the war, and took the lead really to bring back the peace to the Middle East.
The Islamic Society of Augusta has meetings every few months that are open to the public where they have discussions about what is happening in the Middle East and its history. You can find out more information about that on our website, WRDW.com.
All right, thanks for that update there, Audrey. Augusta-Richmond County firefighters were busy in South Augusta yesterday afternoon. When they got to the scene of the home on Wilds Road near the Augusta Mall, they saw flames and smoke. The cause of that fire is under investigation. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. 2 men are facing life in prison for 2 separate murders. District Attorney Jared Williams says Ronald Harris murdered John DeVore, also known as Scotland DeVore, in March of 2020. Authorities say Harris took DeVore's body and put it in Jefferson County, a car in McDuffie County, and DeVore's phone in Richmond County. Harris pled guilty to multiple charges, including malice murder and felony murder. He's facing life in prison plus 30 years. And in another case, Jamarius Walker was sentenced to life for the murder of Laney High School graduate Antonio Jeter. Jeter was shot on San Sebastian Court in April of 2020. That year, a murder indictment was issued, but after a gang link was found, prosecutors added 4 criminal street gang terrorism charges. Walker was found guilty on all 10 counts. He faces life in prison plus 20 years. The story of a family whose relief turned to grief. Alan Thibodeau was a son, a brother, a father, and a friend. He also had a history of mental illness. When he turned up missing, his family feared the worst, but the worst was still yet to come. As Meredith Anderson has uncovered, having a mental illness could mean a death sentence. We do want to warn you, some of the images you're about to see are heartbreaking and disturbing. This story also discusses suicide.
This is body cam from the night Alan Thibodeau was arrested. And this is Alan just 5 months later when someone at the Bamberg Detention Center finally called an ambulance. He died at the hospital. Thing is, Alan wasn't supposed to be behind bars. He was supposed to be in a hospital bed.
He always loved music. Alan loved music.
Especially rock and roll, specifically 80s hair bands.
Music was his life.
Yeah. He could play other instruments, but Alan was first and foremost a drummer, keeping the beat for every band he was in. But in this band of brothers, he was also the heartbeat.
I just miss him being around. Think about him every day.
And you say your name is Alan? Thibodeau.
Valentine's Day, 2022. Bamberg County deputies arrested Alan after responding to a call about a burglary. They found him lying on a bed. He admitted he broke in on a cold night for a place to stay and keep warm. Hands behind his back, his life now in the hands of law enforcement. Deputies took him to the Bamberg County Detention Center, where records show he needed help, not handcuffs. But records also show he became a victim of a process that moved painfully slow as he was quickly getting worse.
Please don't judge us, y'all. We've been trying to deal with this man, but he now he's not responding real well, and I'm a little scared.
July 10th, 2022. Alan is unresponsive. The jail finally calls for help.
Just put the shackles on.
Alan is lying on the floor in his cell, naked and covered in his own feces. He never says a word, but you can hear a faint moan as deputies try to move him. Alan can't even sit up on his own.
1, 2, 3.
For the first time, his emaciated body comes into view of the camera. He doesn't move at all, even as deputies cover him up, even as they begin to roll him through the halls of the detention center. His feet are dragging, much like the process that brought him to this point.
Doesn't look nothing like he did that morning we got him.
Alan is dying. His organs are failing. The 51-year-old is essentially starving to death.
Looks like he hasn't ate since he's been here.
For 146 days, documents show he hasn't had any medication, none. Despite Alan's family telling the detention center back in February, he cannot go extended periods of time without his meds. In an email, just days after his arrest, his brother warns it's dangerous and potentially life-threatening if he doesn't take them. And it's not like his medications were a secret. When the judge ordered an evaluation, the South Carolina Department of Mental Health got this list from his hospital in Virginia. Everything from antipsychotics to antidepressants to a mood stabilizer. The state also requested info from the Bamberg Detention Center, but the jail said they had no records, only notes, which it appears no one provided.
Keep stopping breathing.
Alan does finally get some medication now, after going without the drugs he needed for months. Ironically, it's Narcan, though, a drug used to treat drug overdoses.
And they said he's been like this all morning.
At the hospital, he gets another dose of Narcan, then another and another. Records show he had a total of 6 doses. Drugs weren't the problem.
Yeah, because if he wakes up, I mean, he is going.
Well, I need to be able to get an IV, and it's kind of hard.
Alan is in bad shape, and it's increasingly obvious the hospital staff knows it. Still, deputies insist on keeping him restrained.
I just don't want him hurting you guys. That's.
I'm not worried about that. I don't want him dying.
Alan only lived for another 12 days. He died July 23rd.
Nothing excuses how he was treated. nothing.
Larry and Ed Thibodeau live in Virginia. Alan did too. He was the baby brother, the youngest of 4. But when their parents got sick, he was the one to step up.
When my dad was diagnosed with cancer, my mom had a stroke. Alan was living with them, and he cared for them.
Then came Mom's breast cancer and chemo.
He was the one making sure she ate, took her medicine, you know, really cared for her, brought her to all of her doctor's appointments.
It's those kind of things that we're like, oh man, we look back and we're like, he, on top of his medication and his illness and fighting the world, he had to deal with all that kind of stuff too.
I mean, it just shows his character. You know, he was a good person. He really was a good person.
And for years at a time, Alan would be stable. He has a son, and his childhood best friend remained his best friend into adulthood.
Alan was so awesome. He really was. You would have loved Alan. He was a great guy.
Alan was a light to so many, but his illness took him to a lot of dark places. When unmedicated, he was hospitalized with delusions and bizarre behavior. He would see and hear things that weren't there. At times, he'd even be catatonic.
We're just talking. You're fine. You're not in any trouble, okay?
Okay, cool.
You're good. Just take a seat.
His family shared this cell phone video when they had to call law enforcement. He was committed involuntarily to a mental hospital in Virginia. Medical records show he's threatened suicide, but his brothers say it was more than a threat. He tried to take his life several times, and when he went missing in July of 2022, they confess deep down that's what they feared he had done. Still, they hoped he would be found and filed a missing persons report. They never expected the phone would ring with word he'd been arrested almost 500 miles away in South Carolina.
You're probably relieved to find out he had been found and arrested. I mean, this was great news. You thought he was potentially dead.
Yes, we did. And that's the thing I think people don't understand about this, is he had schizophrenia, okay? He was a grown man. He was 51 years old, okay? Legally, we had no authority. Nobody has authority over him. He can go wherever he wants. Okay, even in conditions in Virginia, when he was ordered to stay in the hospital, after 1 week, he was allowed to sign himself out if he wanted to. Right? The system is entirely broken.
But this time was different. Alan had a criminal charge to answer to, so they thought he wouldn't be able to sign himself out. He would have to get well. And friends and family tell the I-Team they thought he was on track to get the help he so desperately needed. His brothers said they called often to check on Alan.
They said he was fine.
Yes, that there's no mistaking that, okay?
Did you have any idea he wasn't eating?
No. None, because his attorney kept saying, he's fine, he's so happy, you know, he's laughing, he's singing.
This letter from the Bamberg County Detention Center to the coroner reflects that. It says he never refused food. In fact, he occasionally asked for more. It says he sang, laughed, and danced. It does indicate his behavior changed quickly, calling him erratic and aggressive, but up-spirited. It describes other concerning behavior, but never once does it mention weight loss.
You can notice when someone loses 20 pounds. He lost almost 80 pounds, and you didn't notice that?
This almost went unnoticed too at the state level because of something that happened when Alan was in the hospital. The solicitor dropped his charges. Null pros, meaning he's declining to prosecute. It's not likely out of sympathy for Alan dying in a hospital bed. If Alan is no longer facing charges, he's no longer the responsibility of the Bamberg Detention Center. And not just for medical bills. When an inmate dies in custody, it automatically triggers a state investigation. But Alan was no longer an inmate, and he was no longer in custody. The state would have no reason to look into what happened.
How do they sleep at night? I hope they close their eyes and they see Alan every night. I hope for the rest of their lives. I hope they're haunted by what they did.
The family might have never known something was suspicious either, if not for the doctors and nurses at the hospital. 2 days before Alan died, medical staff contacted the state reporting concerns of neglect when Allen was in the Bamberg Detention Center. The state suggested contacting the Bamberg County Sheriff's Office, which staff questioned, asking if it was appropriate considering their involvement. The state rep assured them that was the correct reporting method. The Bamberg County Sheriff told the staff to email him the report, and he would send it to SLED. The hospital then called SLED and emailed concerns directly. Allen was known for being talented on the drums, but his brothers say he had wanted to start using his voice and be a singer. Now his brothers will have to be his voice, and a voice for other inmates and other families who might also be victims of a process that leaves those with mental illness dying for help.
Look what you're doing. You know, you're going to help a lot of people. I think he would say, all right, make him happy, I think.
SLED did investigate and just recently released the results of that investigation. I am holding the report in my hand. And while South Carolina state investigators found nothing criminal, I'm told the FBI is involved. The family has also filed 2 lawsuits, one in federal court and one in South Carolina as well. There is so much more to follow and so much more I've uncovered, plus much more with his family and friends. Stay tuned.
All right, thanks for following that up, Meredith. Tough watch there. It's hard to think he wasn't able to get the help that he needed. Appreciate you looking into that for us. All right, moving along here. Inspirational, kind, loving, and impactful. Just a few words classmates, family, and friends are using to describe 18-year-old Emily Heath. She lost her life this week in a crash off Brick Pond Road. The Silver Bluff senior had a bright life ahead of her. Sydney Hood has her story.
To be only 18 years old, Emily Heath had a solid plan for her future. She had every detail lined up, from who she was going to marry to the job she wanted. So much life ahead, only to be cut so short.
A smile says a lot about a person. In Emily Heath's case, her smile is one that makes all of us smile. You hardly see her without one. Just look at any picture of her. It really is true that you never know the value of a picture until it's all you have left of someone. When Emily left this earth, she left a huge hole in everyone's hearts. You can tell that by just looking at social media. One person wrote, "You were one of those people that made my day better by just having a quick conversation between classes." Another wrote, "I'm just heartbroken for all the memories we won't get to make, but I'll forever be thankful for the ones we did. I'll forever be thankful for you, our friendship, and all the memories we shared. You'll forever hold a place in my heart, and Lord knows you sure took a piece of mine with you. I love you, my beautiful angel."
And every friend of Emily's I talked with today said she was the most driven person. She had a lot going on: high school, a job, and was in the biomedical science program at Aiken County's Career and Technology Center. So a lot for an 18-year-old, but when you're as dedicated as Emily was, you find a way to reach your goals.
Okay, thanks for that, Sid. We appreciate Emily's family and friends sharing that story with us as they go through this very difficult time. A train derailment in Augusta is expected to cause issues for several days. It happened on Laney Walker Boulevard near 5th Street around 7 o'clock yesterday morning. The Richmond County Sheriff's Office says there were no injuries or hazardous materials involved, but they say you should avoid Laney Walker at 5th Street, New Savannah Road, and Noel Road for the next few days while they repair those tracks. The city of Augusta is embracing some environmentally friendly tech. Yesterday, leaders unveiled new electric chargers right behind the municipal building. This is the second set of city-installed EV charging stations. The other one is at Diamond Lakes Regional Park as part of a collaboration with Jefferson Energy Cooperative. They opened back in 2021. Leaders say more plans are in the works.
We're actually doing an energy savings project, which it considers all the facilities of Augusta. And then we have more chargers that will be coming to 452 Walker Street, which is the utilities building.
It'll cost $2 an hour to use with an extra 14 cents per kilowatt. Local artists looking to showcase their talents on a large scale. The Jesse Norman School of the Arts is looking for 4 artists for their annual window display and gallery show. There are 3 application deadlines coming up. The next one is February 1st. Each one will have their work shown for 10 weeks on the school's 8th Street window. These are some images of earlier displays that at the end of the year, they'll all be invited back as part of a group exhibition.
It's for any artist in the community that's up and coming. So it's a really great opportunity to kind of get your foot in the door, get some gallery experience. So it is open to the community.
If you have any questions, you can give the school a call, and there's a link to apply up on our website, WRDW.com. As winter gives way into spring, more and more people will be looking for a fun place to head after work and on the weekends, whether to grab a drink or a bite to eat. A growing number of businesses coming to the area are providing plenty of options. Craft beer and wine shop Tip Top Taps just opened their doors yesterday after relocating from Evans to Augusta. Our Hallie Turner was there and talks about how they're adding to downtown.
It's a big day for Marty Koger as he cuts the red ribbon on his new tap house.
Augusta is, it's got another dynamic. It's got some of the best restaurants in the CSLRA are right here in downtown Augusta. I love every one of them and visit them. And we want to be a part of all of that. We want to be a part of success stories.
A success story just like Nacho Mama's, located in the heart of downtown Augusta.
We've been in nachos for 28 years today, actually.
A journey Barry Blackston says hasn't always been easy.
We've seen downtown go from street lights turning off at 5 in the afternoon to the inability to find a parking space at any given time. So we've seen a lot of change.
Margaret Woodard says a lot of the foot traffic is coming in from the entertainment district and soon will be downtown living.
You've really gotten there when you have a downtown living population because it gives you that 24/7 feel. People live downtown, they tend to work downtown and then play downtown.
She says more foot traffic calls for more expansion.
We've seen a tremendous net gain of businesses over the last 5 years. In 2021, it was 53 new businesses opened up. Last year was 47 new businesses opened up, and something amazing like 11 expansions, businesses expanding.
As empty buildings on Broad Street breathe new life, she says the goal is always to have something new to do in the Garden City.
There's more for people to do now. You can come downtown and eat, go look at the bookstore, then go have a beer somewhere or go have specialty cocktail at Vance's Bakery Bar. There are just so many great things to do, and people will now come down and do several things.
Right now, they're still tallying up how many new businesses have opened from 2023 till now, but Woodard says more restaurants are coming to Lower Broad this next year, so that place continuing to grow. Great to see a lot of businesses coming to Augusta. We spoke to a professor at AU about some of the political expectations she has for South Carolina for this campaign year. She says the next month could be the end of Nikki Haley's campaign based on how much money she gets from donors to stay in the fight.
I think ultimately that's what most political scientists are going to be paying the most attention to is, what are people saying about the economy? What are the people on the street feeling about the economy? Because that's going to have a huge impact on whether or not people are enthusiastic to vote for Biden or enthusiastic to vote for Trump or just stay home.
You can watch our full interview online at WRDW.com. Also on our streaming apps. It's about 10 minutes. Oh, that's me from yesterday. Yeah, okay, there you go. You can catch that interview up on our website. Well, there's a new art exhibit in North Augusta. It's the 3rd annual Artist of Color exhibition. It was curated by Augusta native, Deanna Berry. The exhibit held its grand opening a week ago and will be open during all of February. It's open from 10 to 4 during the week at the Arts and Heritage Center of North Augusta, and it is free to go. So go check it out. Old Vince Carter and Tupac right there. All right, like that. Let's move on to some Georgia news here. Malcolm Mitchell, NFL Super Bowl winner, UGA football player, and reading advocate. Reporter Abby Casoris reports he's being honored yesterday for his work in increasing literacy across our state.
Let me introduce to y'all Malcolm Mitchell.
A standing ovation from state lawmakers. It's something Malcolm Mitchell says he never expected.
To be here today and be recognized for reading, something that I did not always understand the value of, but have learned to love, to cherish.
Mitchell says he struggled reading while in school in Valdosta, Georgia.
I watched my mother fight and claw for resources to make sure that she could provide for her children. And I see reading as an opportunity to grant people that information.
By fourth grade, a third of Georgia students are considered proficient in reading. Students who can't read by fourth grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school.
They have an increased likelihood of interacting with the criminal justice system. That means they're more likely to need government assistance programs. And that means they have a decrease in their life expectancy.
Mitchell started the Share the Magic Foundation, traveling across the state, passing out more than 150,000 books to students.
If reading is the bridge that will lead them in that direction, well, that's what I'm going to promote.
Mitchell now serves on the state's Literacy Council, authoring 2 children's books, now named Children's Author of the Year. In Atlanta, I'm Abby Kasoris.
And if you don't know Malcolm Mitchell's story, it is phenomenal. I highly recommend reading into it a little bit. He joined a book club, Little Old Ladies, and Malcolm Mitchell there, an NFL champion, a Super Bowl winner, hanging out with some women there doing book club. Awesome story. Great to see what he's doing. I believe he's stopped in our area before too, so really making an impact for the next generation. 3 men convicted of hate crimes for killing Ahmaud Arbery in 2020 will have their appeals heard by a federal court in March. Attorneys for Gregory and Travis McMichael and William Roddy Bryan are asking for their hate crime convictions to be tossed. Prosecutors showed social media posts, text messages, and other evidence of racist comments made by the men targeting Arbery because he was black. Attorneys for Greg McMichael and Bryan say they chased Arbery because they believed he was a criminal, not because of his race. While Travis McMichael's appeal argues a technicality, saying prosecutors failed to prove Arbery was chased and killed on the street. Both McMichaels got life in prison. Bryan got 35 years. $15 million is heading towards one of Georgia's busiest ports, but it is not Savannah. It's for the port of Brunswick, about 70 miles south of Savannah. The federal grant money will go towards creating a new dock and updating the terminal. This is all thanks to the 2021 bipartisan infrastructure law. In addition to agricultural cargo, the port at Brunswick handles a lot of vehicles and heavy machinery. The Port Authority says the project should be finished by 2027. Some land near the Okefenokee Swamp could be mined for minerals by an Alabama company. Savannah could be joining other cities in the state to fight the project and form a resolution to protect the swamp. The Alabama Mining Company wants to drill the swamp for a mineral used for paint, but the Georgia Conservancy says the company has not proven their operations would not harm the swamp. Those opposed to the mining are working to get the attention of Georgia lawmakers. A group of Georgia dentists is packing up for a trip to Belize this weekend, but this is far from a vacation. They're part of a nonprofit called Project Smile, Inc., and they're headed to Belize to help hundreds of kids get dental care for free. They'll spend 3.5 days there, seeing about 100 kids ages 4 to 14 a day, every day, 100 kids. Project Smile's president says it's a great feeling helping change lives.
The next day, the children will come back and the parent might bring us a homemade key lime pie. Or they might bring us a wood carving they made. Or a classroom will bring us thank you notes they all colored in and wrote.
The nonprofit's been doing this for more than 30 years now, and they say they're now seeing the children of the original patients they've helped, even some grandchildren. And I will tell you what, food is the best way to say thank you. So the homemade key lime pie, that's better than anything else that you can ask for. A group of unsuspecting students got quite the surprise. They are all at Georgia State University in a class that studies the politics of the Olympics. This week, their professor held a drawing telling them that one lucky student would get to win tickets to see the Paris Olympics this summer. But thanks to some help from Delta Airlines, every single student in the class was surprised with a plane ticket to see what they have been studying in real life. They even got berets to wear alongside the great news. Students saying they had no idea this was going to happen when they signed up for the class. The Paris Olympics kick off on July 26th, 6 months from today. I feel like we just had those Tokyo Olympics. Now we are already on to Paris. Georgia's Future Caucus is spelling out their plans for the 2024 session. They are all legislators under the age of 45 looking to represent the younger generation of voters. The Future Caucus of Georgia hopes to transcend generational gaps and party lines to bring around more bipartisan goals.
Younger Georgians need an inspiring place to work, need workforce solutions, need safe communities and safe schools that they can take their young children to.
The group says they discussed many goals such as workforce development, better housing, and criminal justice reform. Just 33 states have a future caucus in their state legislature. South Carolina, not one of them. Nationwide, only about 25% of state legislators are millennial or Gen Z. In Georgia, that number is just 21%. Members of Georgia's Air National Guard now have a new tool in their arsenal, one of the most advanced cargo planes out there. On Monday, we showed you the unveiling outside of Atlanta, but now the plane is at its new home in Savannah. Haley Boland shows us what our National Guardsmen think.
This new C-130J model, better known as the Super Hercules, has arrived from Marietta to its new home right here in Savannah. Donning the state's flag, the Super Hercules, built by Lockheed Martin right here in Georgia, will now serve Georgia's Air National Guard.
This is the first model to roll off the line at the Lockheed Martin plant, and this enables us to be on the leading edge of technology, capabilities, and development of that platform.
Just this past August, the 165th retired the C-130H, the previous Hercules model, which had served the unit since 1981.
Because the H models were, an older aircraft, they had outdated avionics in comparison to what's available now. So with the J models, we got basically a whole new avionics suite. Everything's digital. There's a lot of software, whereas before it was more analog.
The new model brings the 165th to the forefront of updated technology. They're only the 6th airlift wing to receive it so far, according to unit leaders. Airmen say the upgrade makes a big difference.
The C-130J has more power, it's a little more efficient, it can carry more cargo, fly a little faster, a little bit higher. It's really capable. I mean, what this version of the C-130J does is it takes advantage of all the avionics upgrades.
The planes are responsible for making airdrops and transporting supplies. The upgrade comes with some crew changes.
So there's less crew members. Whereas the C-130H needed a minimum of 5 to 6 crew members, we can operate with 3 to 4.
However, the unit's airmen say it's a step forward they're excited about.
It was a good opportunity for us to all come together and accomplish this feat, and we accomplished step 1 today, getting the first aircraft here.
Very cool to see. Love the reactions there. Let's move ahead to South Carolina. An effort to allow adults in South Carolina to openly carry loaded weapons without having any training or permit is up for debate at the State House right now. State House reporter Mary Green has the latest.
This permitless carry bill, also known as constitutional carry, has already passed in the House of Representatives, and it's now up for debate in the South Carolina Senate.
Under this bill, if you want to carry a weapon and exercise your constitutional rights to do so, you don't have to get permission from government. But you do have to carry it openly for people to see if you choose to take that method.
This proposal would do away with training and permitting requirements for people 18 and older to openly carry loaded handguns. Guns would still be banned in the same places they're currently not allowed, including schools, churches, and courthouses, and people could still obtain a concealed weapons permit if they wanted. The bill would also set mandatory penalties for people unlawfully carrying guns, like those with stolen guns or felons who are legally barred from possessing weapons. Last year, 4 police chiefs from around the state testified against this bill, saying training is essential for safety.
I just tell you, there are consequences here, and God forbid that one of you has somebody you love that's shot, and you have to deal with that, and you have to go look at them in the hospital, and then after they die.
This debate is going to extend into next week, and as opposed to most debates in the Senate, it's unclear at this point how this one is going to turn out. Democrats uniformly oppose this bill, while the Republican majority is split, with the majority leader among those against it. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
If senators pass this bill, the House and Senate would have to work out any differences between what they've passed before sending it to the governor. Governor McMaster has previously told us he would sign it into law. $100 grand, that is how much the University of South Carolina has been fined by the SEC because fans stormed the court after the men's basketball team dominated Kentucky on Tuesday. The game was sold out with 18,000 students packing Colonial Life Arena. After the win, students quickly broke past the yellow rope, which led to the fine. Some members of the USC women's team were among the floor stormers. Their coach, Dawn Staley, had her thoughts about joining the party.
That's a young person's thing. Like, I was thinking, I want to, but my body said, girl, please.
You were encouraging people to get out there.
I didn't incite anything.
The SEC adopted these strict fines for safety reasons. This is considered USC's first offense. If they violate the rules again, the fee is hiked up to $250,000, and then a third offense is $500,000. And I can promise you, if we were to knock off the number 16 in the country again, we will be right out there again. I only wish I was at that game, because we didn't do a lot of winning against good teams when I was there. Although we did beat Kentucky my senior year. Not worth storming the court then, though. Anyway, I digress. Identity theft can happen to anyone, but one study focuses on how identity crimes have a unique impact on the African American community. Carice Jackman spoke with the authors of the report about what you need to know so you can protect your information.
The Black Researchers Collective prides itself on taking their research to the streets, helping to train and equip communities with information about policy. It's why Sherry Runner and Dr. Glennis Green say issuing this report on identity crimes impacting African Americans is vital.
We want to make sure that we are adding to the positive restoration of those communities and not just doing the research for the sake of saying that this happened.
The study, in collaboration with the Identity Theft Resource Center, or ITRC, spoke with focus groups from 3 major cities with large Black populations, asking about experiences with ID theft, how they've protected themselves against it, and if they were able to recover when compromised.
Some of the most prevalent incidents of victimization fell within 5 or 6 categories. 1, through bank accounts, credit cards, and checks. 2, income tax, unemployment or other types of scams. 3 was really around the misuse of personal identity information in childhood when they were younger. The 4th one was really around phone, utility bills. And the 5th one was really around car, home, and student loans.
Of those who were the victims of identity crimes within the last 5 years, at least a quarter were victimized during the pandemic. Most participants told the organizations they were taken advantage of by strangers. However, 40% recounted various incidents carried out by people they knew, with a majority being family members, which Dr. Green says could be a personal and complex battle for those exploited.
As it pertains to family members, there's something very unique to the Black cultural experience that shaped whether or not folks made a decision to address those things. We depend on one another. We support one another. In addition to that, we are working within structures that have historically oppressed us as well, right? And so the people that we're going to for support and remediation, one, and this came up in the study, don't really necessarily believe the stories that we're telling them. There aren't any really clear pathways for it necessarily being resolved.
To help reduce the risk of identity theft, James Lee with the ITRC says you can do things ahead of time to lower the chances of your info being taken.
You need to make sure that you keep your personal information safe and secure, that you use strong, long passwords on your accounts that you use online.
He also says if you're using a lot of accounts online, make sure you're using multi-factor authentication and make sure you keep your records safe and secure.
We know in these particular cases, because it is a family situation in many cases, make sure that you keep that information restricted to only people who really need it. And this is going to be the tough part, is making sure that you understand the consequences of what happens if your information is compromised and you don't do something to try to remedy that. And explain that consequence to your family members as well.
Both the ITRC and the Black Researchers Collective plan on doing more studies, programs, and public awareness in those cities and hopefully others across the country. Not only to reduce ID theft in Black communities, but to inform, educate, and inspire the community.
Your personal identity is information, and data is information, and information is power. So use that. Remember that as you think about it.
Carice Jackman on your side.
To see the full study and to learn more about resources to help you if you believe you've been a victim of identity theft, we have links for you up on our WRDW app. Just search identity theft there. We store a lot of personal information on our phones, credit card information, passwords, and more. That's why Apple has a feature to protect your phone and everything in it if it gets stolen. Consumer tech reporter Jamie Tucker explains how to turn it on.
There are multiple reported incidents where a thief looks over someone's shoulder, steals their passcode, then steals the phone, changes that passcode, turns off Find My, virtually locking the original owner of the iPhone out of their Apple account. Oh, this new update makes that a lot harder for a bad guy to do.
iOS 17.3 includes stolen device protection. With it turned on, a thief cannot lock you out even if they have your passcode. Changing the passcode, adding another Face ID, or changing the Apple ID password requires a second Face or Touch ID if the phone is in an unfamiliar location. If they try to change the password or passcode, they'll have to wait an hour and then enter the stored Face ID a second time. That 1 hour delay gives you time to locate the stolen phone using another Apple device. It also requires Face or Touch ID to use or even see credit cards or stored passwords. It's a critically important update for when you're in a large crowd like a concert, a ball game, or a bar. So take your phone and look for a red 1 on the Settings app, or you can open Settings and you'll be prompted to download the update. Once it's installed, open Face ID and Passcode in Settings, scroll down to Stolen Device Protection and turn it on. Since it also includes other security updates, go ahead and install it. iOS 17.3. It's been in beta for some time and should be stable and safe.
iOS 17.3 is available for iPhone XS all the way up to iPhone 15. That's What the Tech. I'm Jamie Tucker.
The new iOS update also allows multiple people to contribute to Apple playlists, has new wallpapers, and has the ability to stream content from your phone to TV in some hotels. So whenever you can't find the channel you want, there you go.
Good morning, everyone. Thursday was a massive day for news around the NFL. After weeks of conducting interviews, the Atlanta Falcons are hiring Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris to be their next head coach. Morris has 2 Super Bowl rings as an assistant coach and is no stranger to the NFC South or the Falcons in particular. He spent 6 years with the Dirty Birds in various different roles, from defensive coordinator to wide receivers coach, and even served as interim head coach when Arthur Blank decided to move on from Dan Quinn. The Falcons interviewed Bill Belichick, Jim Harbaugh, Mike Vrabel, and a bunch of other candidates, but Raheem Morris is their guy. The Panthers have found their new head coach as well. Carolina is hiring former Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator Dave Canales. People in all circles around the league have been impressed by Canales' ability to get the most out of the Bucs offense and help Baker Mayfield take his game to the next level. Shifting gears to women's college basketball, the #1 South Carolina Gamecocks were down in Baton Rouge.
Okay, unfortunately, that is where we have to end that because we're not allowed to show highlights live here. But what you need to know is South Carolina, the women, beat #9 LSU. But we can actually skip past that and get you to the next thing. Let me get this working here, because we did have some local content that I want to show you as well. Come on, here we go. All right.
Team is on their way to the state team duels championships. On Thursday, the high school held a send-off for the team. Students and faculty lined the main hallway celebrating their region champions. The Wolfpack are the #1 ranked team in the Peach State, and sharing this experience with their classmates is a moment years in the making.
It's just so exciting. It makes the whole experience worth it, you know, to just know that it's for a purpose and that we have a big student body supporting us in our journey, and it just feels really good.
Finally, we're going to get the recognition that we've been fighting for all these years, and I just hope that everyone is as happy as we are for the experience and the opportunity.
Well, there might be those few girls out there that were unsure and didn't know if they wanted to do it or not, but I think seeing this moment today and seeing how together the girls are and we're kind of celebrating all done up and everything, that it's going to start encouraging those girls to be like, hey, this is something that I can really be a part of.
The GHSA Girls Wrestling State Dual Championships begin later on today at the University of West Georgia. That's it for sports. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Dan, and good luck to that Greenbrier girls wrestling team. All right, this weekend you can run a race through Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and you don't even have to cross the pond to do it. Will Volk explains how.
It's always been a very interesting talking point.
When Brad Williams tells people he's from Norway, they get confused.
You get this awfully strange look, and they say, well, you don't sound Norwegian. And they said, no, it's Norway, South Carolina.
Norway's neighboring communities are named after Scandinavian countries, too. There's Finland, Sweden, and Denmark. Denmark was here first, named after a railroad official. As they continued building the railroad, they thought, let's keep this theme going and name other stops after Scandinavian countries. So now it's rural South Carolina, but it's also little Scandinavia.
We're really excited to welcome people to our little part of Scandinavia right here in South Carolina.
Laura Broussard is organizing the first ever Scandinavian relay race. It's about a 30-mile course through the area.
Part of, we think, the draw for this is for people to be able to come and say, hey, I ran through Sweden this weekend. And so people will be like, what are you talking about? And we'll say, well, it's Sweden, South Carolina.
She says all the money raised will go to help local nonprofit Three Crosses Outreach. Broussard thinks it'll be a great way to help the community while also introducing people to it.
We really want to bring awareness to this community. It's a great community.
In little Scandinavia, Will Volk, on your side.
And that race is tomorrow. He did say 30 miles, you heard that right, but you can have teams of up to 7 people, so you don't have to run the whole 30 yourself, unless you want to. I know we got some runners out there that would enjoy that. All right, you can always find out about these stories and much more up on our website, WRDW.com. Be sure to check out our WRDW streaming app and subscribe to our News 12 YouTube channel. Morning Mix coming up here in about 9 minutes or so. At 10:30, we'll have First Alert Weather Extra with Mikkel. At 11, Dan and I will have an interview with West Side boys basketball coach Jerry Hunter. So we've got a jam-packed day on News 12 Now today. So hope you'll stick with us. We'll see you back here in a little bit.